Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's Shadowwraith and today I'm going to be going over 3 ways you can play Death Guard in 9th edition. So basically it's not exactly army lists or things like that, it's more generic lists that you can run and build your armies off, so specific units that you can build your army around, things like that, and specific tactics you can build your army around. And really what it means for Death Guard in 9th edition, and we're going to see in the competitive scene how they're going to fare, and maybe similar lists that will be taken once the competitive scene is back up and running to full strength. Now, jumping straight in, we're going to go for the obvious one first, and that is Plague Marines. Building around Plague Marines. Plague Marines are absolutely fantastic. My last video I covered Plague Marines. If you didn't catch it, it's worth checking out. I go over stratagems to use, characters to use with them, and what they're good at, and you can do some really horrible things with them. But to briefly go over what you can do with them, I'm going off a blob of 20 here. I know blast weapons are a thing now in 9th edition, but you can make them ridiculously strong. I like to play them as Mortarian's Chosen Sons because I like the Plague Surgeon stratagem. So you pay a command point for your Plague Surgeon to change his ability to allow Mortarian Chosen Sons units, so not Boxwalkers or Cultists basically, to re-roll disgustingly resilient rolls of 1s and 2s whilst within 3 of the Plague Surgeon. Now, combining that with, and I'm going with the best case scenario here, we get the putrescent vitality off, so they're now +1 strength, +1 toughness, so they're now toughness 6, and as well as miasma of pestilence, casting that to make that unit now -1 to hit, whether that be combat or shooting. Yeah, so they're harder to hit, they're tougher now. On top of that, if you bring a Malefic Blight Hauler along with them, I bring 3 because I love them and they went down in points, so why not? And I've got some pretty decent firepower to pop open some tanks, and they have got their missile launchers with the 2 profiles on, so they're a little bit durable. But that's not the main reason I bring them. I bring them because I've got a 7-inch aura that make all my infantry models count as being in cover, which means, that's right, unless they're ignoring cover for whatever reason when they're shooting at you, your Plague Marines now have a 2+ armor save. On top of that, we can get really silly with it, and you really don't want them to die. We can spend 2 command points on Putrid Fecundity, and that gives us +1 to our disgustingly resilient rolls. So they're going to be even harder to get rid of. So yeah, 4+ disgustingly resilient, re-rolling, not all of it, but most of it, and at toughness 6, -1 to hit, makes them ridiculously tough to shift. And you can stick a screen in front of them if you really want to, because you can then spend a command point on Cloud of Flies. So unless they're the closest unit, they cannot be shot, which means you don't have to put so much into them, as in, you know, amping up their strength and toughness and stuff like that, especially if you're going with the Bolter Marine build, which is what I like. I like both. I have 20 of each at the moment, and you can get the bolters to be absolutely ridiculous and make them all plague weapons, +6 inches to the range if you really need it, rapid firing at 18 inches, all wound rolls of a natural 6 or unmodified, count as -4 AP, and you can make them rapid fire 2 rather than rapid fire 1. There's a bunch of other buffs you can chuck on, but they're the main ones. Absolutely ridiculous. On top of that, if you bring the Foul Blight Spawn, stick them behind them, you can go ridiculous with the grenades they have. Add 6 inches to the range of those grenades with Overwhelming Generosity, and then they get buffed to Strength 4 and +1 damage, so 2 damage from the Foul Blight Spawn. And if you're very lucky, they're within 7 inches of one of your Malefic Blight Haulers, in which case you can, if you so wish, spend a command point to give them Parasitic Fumes, so that all your attacks count as -1 AP for that enemy unit that's in range of that aura. Ridiculous. So, yeah, the possibilities are endless. The Foul Blight Spawn's a must-take in my opinion anyway, because he's got his Revolting Stench, and so basically if you're running Combat Marines, and you get charged, and they're within 7 inches of your Foul Blight spawn, they don't count as charged, so they don't get to fight first. And in the way that the addition works, if it's your opponent's turn and he charges you, you get to pick the first non-charging unit to fight with. So you can just pick your Marines who just got charged by something scary. And if they're all combat Marines, you can buff them to high heaven and destroy whatever's in front of you. Horrible. Plus he's got an awesome flamer. So now for the number 2 slot goes to Demon Engines. Yes, Demon Engines are fantastic in this edition. They're vehicles, so they can shoot in combat and stuff like that, which is fantastic if you've got a shooty one. If you haven't got a shooty one, no drama. Basically, you can run them with the Poxmongers, and what that does is you've got a relic called Ironclot Furnace, and models in Poxmonger Demon Engine units from your army have a 4+ invulnerable save whilst within 7 inches of this friendly model with this relic. And you can stick it on anyone. Like, you can stick it on a caster if you want, or some cheap Chaos Lord, so they're re-rolling ones. So, you know, anything like that, stick that on them. And they become ridiculously hard to kill. Because they've got, you know, usually a 3-up save, and then a 4-up invuln if it gets through to that. And then you've got a 5-up Disgusting Resilient. Absolutely bonkers. Plague Burst Crawlers got better in this edition because they've got a big blast weapon on them. They can fire in combat. Not the blast weapon though, because that's a minimum range of 12 inches now. But you can equip it with things like Plague Spitters, or if you really want to, the Entropy Cannon. I don't really like the Entropy Cannon because 4+ ballistic skill isn't great for a single shot. Well, you get 2 shots because you get 2 of them. Yeah, it's up to you on that. Absolutely up to you. But they got really good, and with this Legion, they excel. I prefer Malefic Blight Haulers just because they've got better shooting. They've got the multi-melters, they've got the missile launchers, and they can buff your army as well, so they can move forward with your army. They don't have to stay out of range, and if they do get tied up in combat, they can pretty much shoot everything. So they're really good. Bloat drones, they're good. They're good. I like bloat drones. I prefer Plague Burst Crawlers or Blight Haulers, but it's entirely up to you. Demon Engines are awesome. They can all shoot in combat. They've got no problems. They've got no problems. As an honourable mention, I will say that other Demon Engines, so Hell Brutes if you really want, or you've got the Defilers, and now we've got the Stratagem Contaminated Monstrosity. You can make them all have Disgustingly Resilient by spending a command point on them, or each of them, before the battle. And basically you can pick a model from your army with a characteristic of 12 wounds or less for 1 CP, 13 wounds or more for 2 CPs. So you can have Leviathan Dreadnoughts coming in with Disgustingly Resilient. Like I said, you can have the Defilers, Morphines, whatever you can think of. And that seems to be very popular at the moment, and I can see why. You can then stick on the Relic Pistol Worm Spitter, so you replace a Bolt Pistol, and basically it's a range 15-inch pistol 1, strength 5, -2 AP, 1 damage, so it's not a bad pistol to be fair for a Bolt Pistol, but it's the ability that matters. It's a Plague weapon, but when you hit a target from a unit, until the end of the turn, when resolving attacks made with weapons by friendly Death Guard models against a corroded unit, that weapon gains the Plague Weapon ability for that attack. So, yeah, you can give things that don't have Plague Weapons. It gets a bit silly. The possibilities are endless because there's so many CPs that run off Plague Weapons. There's a spell, Blaze of Putrefaction, runs off Plague Weapons. Yeah. Anyway, that takes us nicely into the third way of running it. Now, I was mixed between going for like Blightlord Terminators, which is a very solid option. You've got quite a few CPs that work with them quite well, but I've gone to my roots and I've gone for the Horde. The Horde being Poxwalkers, obviously. Not many people are loving Poxwalkers at the moment. Plague Marines are way better. I agree. Plague Marines are way better. They're also way more expensive, and I'd expect them to be way better. You can do some really nasty stuff with Plague Marines. But that's not to say Poxwalkers are no longer viable. You may disagree with me, and that's fine, you can. But I think they're quite cheap. And if you think about it, everyone's not everyone, quite a lot of people are upset. They've gone up in points, but everything has nearly. Everything in 40k, is, almost everything, has gone up in points. So Boxwalkers have caught up with that. So they're still really cheap. 7 points a model. And, okay, I'll just put it at this. I get it. You have to build your army around Boxwalkers. And that's why it's on its list. Because these are all about building around these models. Okay? So, Boxwalkers, what have I told you? Your 7-point model can be Strength and Toughness 5. Not bad. Good start. Hitting on 4s. Re-rolling everything. Be +1 to wound. Any roll of a 6. If there are no negative modifiers. So you need to roll a 7, actually. But there's ways around it. So any roll of a 6 will cause a mortal wound. In addition to any other damage. That said, 6 to wound, additional, like the normal damage, is resolved at -5 AP, and all the regular attacks are resolved at -1. Doesn't sound too bad, in my opinion. Okay, and so we've gone for 20 of them, because screw it, they're Boxwalkers. Okay, so that's 140 points. 140 points for 20 of these. Okay, and they've got 2 attacks each. 40 attacks if they all get in. Re-rolling to hit. At strength 5, +1 to wound. 6s do a mortal wound, in addition to any normal damage. On top of 6s are counted as -4 AP. Okay, now, how do I do this? Well, basically, straight away, you want your Boxwalkers. Yep, that's a given. You want Typhus. Okay, Typhus, fantastic. He makes you +1 strength, +1 toughness for your Boxwalkers. They're in range of him, 7 inches. On top of that, you're going to need to get off Putrescent Vitality. And you've got to pick what unit you think is going to fight. Okay, Putrescent Vitality, right? Then Blaze of Putrefaction. Okay, so it's quite easy to do that. You can even have a Malignant Plaguecaster out the back or something like that, slightly further away, keep them out of range from being dispelled, and try and get them both off. Because you've got a bit of range to those spells. On top of that, you want to stick them with a model with a bolt pistol. So you choose, you can put it on a Malignant Plaguecaster, people do that, if you don't want him to hide a bit further back. Or you can stick it on a Chaos Lord, because he hits on 2s, or yeah, rerolling ones is pretty good. And make sure it's the relic one, the Worm Spitter, so all their attacks count as plague weapons. And then you have them near a Talisman. And Talisman allows you to re-roll all failed hits, as long as you're within 7 of him. Okay. Then you can go and stick Creeping Blight on them. So in the fight phase, you can add 1 to damage rolls. We don't care about that because it's not a roll; it's just flat damage. And an unmodified wound roll of a 6, the AP characteristic of that weapon is -4. If that's not enough for you, make sure you've got a Malefic Blight Hauler nearby. Stick Parasitic Fumes on him, so everything within 7 inches of him, so enemy models, will increase your armor penetration by 1. So they'll go to -1 AP for your Boxwalkers, or -5 if you roll a natural roll of a 6. And natural roll of 6 do mortal wounds. If that's not enough for you, you can stick Arch Contaminator on your Warlord, Malefic Plaguecaster, whatever. And that lets you re-roll all your failed wound rolls on Boxwalkers that are +1 to wound at strength 5. And this one seems a bit cheeky to me, but you can do it if you really want to. I think I'd understand if it's not legal. I have yet to find somewhere where it tells me it is not legal. But like I said, Blaze of Putrefaction. Okay, your strength 5, your +1 to wound, re-rolling all failed wounds. And if you stick Mutant Strain on them with Blaze of Putrefaction, I mean, natural rolls of a 6 count as a mortal wound for the Mutant Strain, and then you technically roll a 7 if there's no modifiers to wound for the Blaze of Putrefaction, which is another mortal wound, and the attack sequence carries on. But I'm guessing it's not canon, or not a no-go, because it says the attack sequence ends from the Mutant Strain after you roll a 6 and it does a mortal wound. So, yeah, let me know. But I'm pretty sure it's not. Anyway, you've got more than enough there. If hitting on 4s, re-rolling everything, wounding on strength 5 plus 1, so marine equivalent, you're wounding on 2s, re-rolling all failed wounds, okay? Any 6s cause a mortal wound, and also cause -4 AP, -5 if you need a Malefic Blightcaller, and all your rest of your attacks at a -1 AP is not good enough for you, then I don't know what is. And don't forget there's 7 points a model, so yeah. People can try and gun down your Boxwalkers, but you can still bring everything else. Malefic Blighthaulers are still scary. You can have a Plague Burst Crawler in the back. You know? Typhus and 2 blobs isn't that many points to sacrifice. Especially in a 2,000 point game, which is what I usually play. So you can still do that and still add in other scary things. And your Boxwalkers aren't affected by any of the legions that you can bring from Psychic Awakening, so it doesn't really matter which one you bring. You can bring the Harbingers, sure, so you can teleport your Boxwalkers, and your Warlord's attacks can bring back Boxwalkers, but screw that, you don't need that. Okay? You can still bring the other ones. Anyway, before I go off on a complete rant about Boxwalkers, because I love them so much, don't forget I do love Plague Marines. I am testing lists out with Plague Marines as we speak pretty much. I love them. I love range Plague Marines that can dish out 80 shots into rapid fire range, doing stupid damage. It's insane. But there we have it. Let me know what you think of those 3 ways of playing Death Guard. What you think. Let me know how you play Death Guard, and let me know how your 9th edition games are going. Because I'd love to know how we're doing, and Papa Nurgle really wants to know. And obviously, I am one of his preachers, so sure, you can tell me in the comments and I'll let him know. And he'll send you his blessings, I'm sure. But yeah, if you can think of anything I missed, do let me know. If you want to talk more about this, do join my Discord server, which is the link down below. I have got a 40k server, so it's not just Death Guard, it's everything. But I'm hooked on Death Guard at the moment because I think 9th edition is fantastic for Death Guard. So, thank you ever so much for watching the video. If you did enjoy it, do hit the like button so I know people are enjoying these kinds of videos. And if you're feeling especially nurgly today, do consider subscribing, because I can guarantee Papa Nurgle will definitely give you his blessings. Trust me. But even if you don't do either of those things, I still hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.